Hi, everyone, and welcome back to The Aesthetic Edge, the podcast where we pull back the curtain on what's actually working in the aesthetic industry right now. I'm your host, Bethany Gifford, and today we're talking strategy, leadership, and sustainable growth with one of the most respected operational minds in the field. But first, a word from our sponsor.
This episode is brought to you by New Era Intel. At New Era Intel, we help medical spas, dermatology clinics, and plastic surgery practices who are struggling with inconsistent patient retention, underutilized CRM systems, and manual systems that hold back your clinic's growth potential so they can finally increase quality repeat bookings, streamline operations with AI automation, and grow predictable monthly revenue with the right systems and strategy. They're able to create a premium, seamless patient experience while freeing up their team to focus on what they do best. If you would like to take your business to the next level, head over to neweraintel.com to get started.
My guest today is Rachelle Harding, the powerhouse COO of SD Botox, one of Southern California's fastest growing aesthetic brands. With nearly 20 years in the industry, including an incredible 16-year tenure at Allergan, Rachelle has done it all: clinical strategy, team leadership, operational scaling, you name it. She first crossed paths with Dr. Alex Roher back in 2012 when he opened his very first SD Botox location. Fast forward to 2022, she's officially joined forces with him to scale the business from 5 to 7 thriving locations with more on the way. Rachelle, welcome to the show. We're excited to have you here today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So let's dive into the beginning. You spent an impressive 16 years at Allergan before moving into operations. That's a huge pivot. What inspired this transition for you?
Yeah, it wasn't planned. I always laugh and make the joke that I grew up in aesthetics. I started working for Allergan when I think I was 25 years old. I had a ton of amazing mentors there, and that was just really the space in the industry that I knew. After I had my kids and life shifted for me a little bit, I wanted to get back to where I could really make impact. And as Allergan grew and eventually became AbbVie, it was just an enormous company. And I wanted to do something where it was a little bit more at the ground level again. And that's why I took a step back. And through that time, kind of started talking to my friend, Dr. Rohr, and strategized with him to come on board and get to see this side of the business. And it's been the best experience I could have ever asked for.
I'm curious, like, how did that conversation go about? Because you're repping with Allergan, and then he's like, what? Did he just poach you?
So no, actually, may have tried a few times while I was still at Allergan, but no, I just made a clean break. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I just wanted to let kind of the doors that needed to open. So when I stepped back from Allergan, I did it with absolutely zero plans. I had kind of built in a little cushion for myself to give myself 9 months of a chance to breathe and just be a mom for a second, which I really hadn't done. And in that time, that's where the discussions kind of started happening. And it was always over a cocktail and kind of the what if. So
So you came on 2022 as the COO. What were some of your top priorities with the business? Your approach to kind of stepping into the role. What changes or improvements did you focus on in those early days?
yeah, I mean, I came into it I wanted to learn. So usually when I enter any new role, especially in any leadership role, I try to take a very backseat approach and walk in and take, 60, 90 days to just listen and observe and figure out what's going really well and get to know the people that are doing the jobs, because I'm always so impressed to find the people that are doing amazing work. And what I often find is that they just need a little motivation or empowerment to continue to do more of what they're doing. So that was my initial approach. The second thing, what I initially found was just there was a little bit of missing infrastructure. He had done an amazing job growing this business for almost 10 years, but it was getting to a size where it needed tighter policies, procedures, infrastructure, operational background. So that's what I've spent the last few years doing and building, and it's been a really great ride. We are now, you've kind of talked about, we've scaled, and now that we have this really tight infrastructure, it's easy to build on that.
So since you've grown SD Botox from 5 to 7 locations, and I know you have more on the horizon, what does like smart expansion look like in today's market? give the viewers some advice if they're wanting to grow?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of factors that go into it. So the timing has to be right. The economy needs to be right. The demand needs to be right. I would never encourage anybody to even go from that 1 to 2 until you have really tightened down your processes. You really understand your expenses. You're managing those across multiple locations. So it's very easy to lose sight of those things. And once you do that, then for me, it comes down to two main things. It's finding that right location. I really don't believe in overextending yourself in massive overhead. I've been in this industry for so long. I've seen people that just get in over their head. And I think being modest there is the right play. And then secondly, it's so provider dependent. And that's hard. It's hard to find really tenured, experienced providers in this market. There's only so many, and we're all competing for the same ones. So being able to have a reputation and a business that people want to come to, finding that right provider, pairing it with that right location, and then implementing it with the strategies and the operational background that you have, that's kind of been our recipe to success.
It's incredible. So you said before that your team organically echoes your core values, and that's not something that you can fake. How did you kind of cultivate that culture, and how do you make sure that it's spread across all of your locations?
Yeah. I give a lot of credit to Allergan, especially in the young years when I was with them. Core values were deeply rooted in us there and in the leadership trainings and models that we had there. And so I've always loved to run my teams with us all on the same page. And when I came to SD Botox, the nice thing was they had already kind of gone through that exercise. They had a really good identity of who they were. And so what I did is made that more uh, kind of throughout the entire fabric of the company. So it's one thing to have, like you said, it's one thing to have core values that are like plastered on some wall in the conference room. And it's another thing for every one of your employees to make decisions based on those core values, be able to recite those back to you, give awards and recognition based on those core values. And then I think even further is to take it from an internal core value to more external so that even the people that you're recruiting and you're talking to come to you because your core values resonate with them. And then your clients start to feel it. It becomes palpable when you walk into a location. One of my favorite things to do is if I talk to maybe a friend or a person that's just gone to SD Botox for the first time and they had a great experience, I love to ask them, like, can you kind of explain that experience to me? What did you love the most about it? And when you hear people tell you back what they loved about the business or their experience throughout, you can literally hear some of those core values that you've tried to put into the business coming back to you. And that's probably got to be one of the most rewarding things you can as a leader to see, because it's coming full circle.
I absolutely love that approach. I think that culture is everything, and it really shows, when other people are commenting about how your company is run and the services that they're being provided and the environment. I think that's huge.
Well, I was just going to say, I think this is like a big topic, and sometimes it tends to be a little bit of a fluffy word that everybody wants to say that their companies, live by certain core values or certain mission statements. But like you mentioned, it's a whole nother thing to try to live it. And so I would just encourage people, there are very tactical ways that you can make sure that you are living by those and that you are, like I said, kind of weaving them into the fabric of the company. And like I mentioned, it can be as simple as when you're hiring people or when your team is hiring people, that the questions you ask those people that are interviewing are actually tied to one of your core values. So that as you're listening to that answer, yeah, you're listening to their answer, but you're also kind of thinking a little bit deeper about, do they embody what we would want, to represent our company? And then, like I mentioned, like with the rewards and recognition, we have peer recognition that happens throughout the company where they're voting on who best represents that core value for their team. And so I think I encourage people that once you've decided who you are and what your identity is to find very tactical things that you can deploy that kind of keep it alive within the company.
I mean, that speaks volumes. That takes management and team building to a whole other level by incorporating all that. How do you like maintain that across all the locations? How do you guys keep that all aligned together?
Well, number one, it all starts at the top. So it can't just be lip service. You need to live it, you need to breathe it, and you need to kind of lead from the front. And then secondly, it's your people. So having really good people in place, like you said, we do a lot of team building. We take people off site. We do trainings that, for our managers, for instance, and not only just make them better employees, but also invest in who they are as people. And then we do that at the front desk level. We do that at the provider level. We do that with our estheticians and kind of spending some of that like outside of work quality time with people. So it's really the people, and then it's the leadership that you create within your organization so that things can become top down. If I tell people what our next initiative is and I give them the why and we set goals around it, they're able to take that information and then really go disseminate it to their teams with that same enthusiasm, with that same why, and really kind of get their teams all on board. And so it takes a lot of training, but it also just takes having the right people within that culture.
Let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about some trends. What do you see shifting in the industry as far as automation and beauty aesthetics?
Yeah, I think those are kind of two different questions. So, what do I see as far as automation? This has changed the way we market. So, bringing in better software add-ons. I don't know about anybody else out there, but I have not found the perfect software that encompasses everything. So, you do have to be pretty slick about what you're using and what other bolt-on software that you need to integrate in. But yeah, getting a little bit more sophisticated in our automations. I think in the past and many of the accounts that I always worked with, there's a lot of lead generation out there. People are getting people to inquire, call, text, email, but we've just always had a really hard time not only responding to all those leads, but then also continuing to respond to them and really nurture them. And I think that now we're getting to a place with better software and with better automations that we can put those things in place so that that patient that might have come in and inquired about something can then kind of get within our marketing journey, and kind of just meeting those people where they're at and when they're ready has afforded us that opportunity to do that with patients. And it's really helping because you do have to hit people when they're ready. And it's hard to do that with just personnel, and bodies in their seats. So the technology has really helped us. I think on the medical front, kind of on the innovative front, what we're really excited about is just more regenerative medicine. We got into the GLP-1 game earlier this year and actually a little bit later than most people had. And we actually have a sister company owned by Dr. Rohr, and it's called Hormones and Wellness. And just looking more into the future of treating patients more holistically from the inside out and regulating people's hormones and getting them optimized and balanced, and then adding on things like peptides as we see that need, and then helping them just with that continued weight loss, or even using GLP-1s for reduced inflammation. That's been a huge part of the business now, and I continue to see that part of the business growing exponentially over the next few years, and that excites us.
Yeah, it's a whole movement. We love it. We're working with several med spas right now and practices that are integrating that whole entire movement into them and kind of just like rebranding themselves, not with just aesthetics, but health and wellness as well. It's great, you know, kind of becoming a one-stop shop for people, especially when medical providers are involved. And touching on the automation, I couldn't agree more, being able to cultivate that relationship with the patient, not just from the second they walk through the door, but the whole entire re-engagement. We do a lot of that in our company, and we've had a lot of tools implemented that focuses on really keeping the patient, a lifetime and making sure all those are touch points. And we had, previously chatted about the AI automation, and it's great. We love it. We use it every day. But when we implement tools, the companies are realizing you don't have AI, but you've got to do HI as well. That human interaction, human intelligence. People don't want to talk to robots. They want to talk to people, and they want to be able to hear that voice and be like, okay, it's not just a scripted question. So this is something we definitely make sure that we implement into all of our clients' offices. So, we're in the people business, right?
Yeah. Implementing AI to just implement AI, you're going to lose the heart and soul of the company, right? but working with it parallel to your human people, I think that's where it's really smart, and it gets you ahead a lot faster and allows you for so many more of those like great touch points and great follow-ups to get them back in. Because we spend a lot of money on acquisition, right? So now obviously the advertisement, the lead generation, the paid ads, all of that has changed. So you might find us through social, and you might click on something and fill out a form, and then we're going to start a relationship with you. We're going to start talking to you. And then eventually we hope that that kind of converts to you coming into our office. And once you do, are you prepped for that appointment? Do you know what you're coming in for? Are you excited? The people that we have on the phone, we invest a lot in just phone skills training, SMS training, so that there's a lot of credentialing happening on that front end. So before you ever walk in the office, I already want you to have an idea of who your provider is, a little bit of an idea of who SD Botox is. I want you to almost feel bad if you have to cancel. Like, you're not going to no-show us because we've already kind of established a little trust and a little bit of relationship. So that's kind of on the front end, and that hasn't changed. I think that best practice has been in play, like I said, for 20 years. And then it's when you come in, it's, are we doing the right things at checkout or check-in? We partner heavily with our industry partners with like MERS and Allergan and Galderma, and we take advantage of their resources. So when you come into our practice, we want to, put out everything that could maybe potentially save that patient money or get them another offer. So we really, we utilize that stuff to its fullest, and I encourage other people to do that as well. Into then, that handoff to your provider. And we have kind of a policy that anytime you come in for a first-time treatment, immediately requires that you have an initial consultation with it. So that's just to extend the appointment time, to give you some time to kind of do your GFE and do a full facial assessment and have a little bit of time with them to get those nerves kind of kicked off. And then lastly, it's that checkout. So when you leave, making sure that we're offering you to rebook. You can come back for free in 2 weeks so that we can take a look at you. All those little touch points become so important. And then kind of back to the automotive side, once you leave, there's going to be a follow-up with you in 2 days to make sure that everything was great, everything, you feel good, there's no problems. And then kind of at a week, we also follow up again just via text. And it's a very kind of superficial, easy one. We're not asking anything from them, but it's just a touch point to say thank you for coming in, and I hope your results are looking great right now. And then lastly, eventually we ask for a review, and I encourage everybody, like, you should be asking for reviews because they're going to help you immensely with all your SEO and just relevancy, and it's okay to ask for those kind of things. So
100.
that's the patient journey. And then beyond that, they usually fall into one of our kind of email drip campaigns, which then it just educates them about everything else we do in the practice. You might have come in for one thing, but we want you to know everything we do, and we'll continue to educate you until you may or may not decide to try one of those offerings.
I love that. Well, going forward, 2025, give us a little sneak peek of what SD Botox is up to.
What are we up to? Without spilling the beans. It's just been, I think if we kind of go back to looking at the last 2 years, 23, 24, it was a little bit of a tighter environment. The med spa industry, the aesthetic industry definitely took a big dip in those years. We went through an election. People are holding on to their money. So a lot of people during that really kind of tightened up, and we specifically got all our ducks in a row. We made sure that all of our procedures, our policies, everything was very, very tight. Our expenses were in check so that kind of coming into 2025, we were ready to hit the ground running in terms of expansion. So yeah, so we're at August. We are now fully open to 2 more locations, and we're continuing on that trajectory. Like I said at the beginning, I think there's a secret sauce in there about finding that right location with that right provider to kind of get you off the ground. But I've always got my eyes and ears open, and we will definitely have more SD Botoxes open in the future.
I love that. Rachelle, this has been such a great conversation. Your approach from scaling to strategy and culture and heart, this is definitely something that a lot of aesthetic leaders can learn from. So thank you so much. And for
Yeah,
anybody
you bet.
listening who wants to follow SD Botox or connect with you, what's the best place to find you online?
Yeah. You can visit our website at sdbotox.com. You can follow us on Instagram or TikTok, and then you can check me out on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect with anyone.
That's awesome. And for all you tuning in, thank you so much for spending time with us. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, share it with somebody you know that can learn from Rachelle and her journey. Rachelle, thank you so much. We really appreciate you being on the show today.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Bethany.